We're in the home stretch now. I'm talking about online dispute resolution, and my name's Kelly. I think some of the topics we talked about earlier today, everybody's a little bit more familiar with. You know, everybody has credit cards. So you might not have heard about this. Just to get kind of a feeling about where you guys are at. Has anybody bought anything on eBay? Okay, has anybody used PayPal to make a transaction of any kind? Okay, well, then you guys might have agreed to be a part of an online dispute resolution process. Oop, wrong way. So what exactly is this? Companies like Amazon, eBay, PayPal, they came up with this system in order to take care of transactions that go wrong on the internet. So if you're buying anything online on one of these sites, you're going to be a part of this online dispute resolution processes. What exactly is it? So this is an ability for a third-party mediator employed by one of these companies to come in and solve the dispute for you between the buyer and the seller. This third-party mediator is employed by one of these companies, so it's not an individual third party that has no stake in the game, so that is something to kind of take with a grain of salt. And before I actually talk about the steps, I know we've been harping on it all day, but you know, keep all the emails that you get whenever you're ordering something online. You don't expect something to go wrong, you don't expect any of the transaction number or any of the information, but when it finally comes down to having to deal with this process, having all the information that you possibly can is going to be the best way to go about it. So I think the best way to explain it and go through it is to do a hypothetical. So let's say I go online and I go, has everybody heard of Etsy? So it's a marketplace website where people who want to sell stuff can go onto this website and market to all of you guys, and it's all just in one place. So let's say I go onto Etsy and I put this dress on the left, and this is the dress I want. You know, it's the long one, I'm ready for summer, it's got the tank top feel, I like the color. That's what I'm ordering, and I checked all of these things. But when it finally arrives, what I get is the dress on the right. You know, it's not that it's not a cute dress, it's just not what I wanted. So what do I do at this point? I should also mention, when you buy on Etsy, you're not using Etsy's payment plan, you're using PayPal. And so that's how they get you involved in this online dispute process. You're agreeing to PayPal's terms. So what I'll be running through are slides from PayPal's website, which is where you're going to go to dispute this. Like my colleague talked about earlier, the first step whenever you have a problem is contact the seller. So the seller's email address and phone number is going to be on the website that you bought from. If you want to email, that's fine. A phone conversation might go a long way as long as you're polite and friendly and you take notes about what's going on. It might just be that the seller messed up when they sent my package. They might have meant to send it to somebody else, and it's going to be an easy fix and they'll refund it, no big deal at all. If the seller ignores you or says, you know, this is your fault, that's what you ordered, and you're not feeling at all satisfied with the result, that's when you'll start this formal online dispute resolution process. There's a few things to think about before you do start it, because you are giving up some rights that might be a better avenue for you. One of them is chargebacks, which I'm not going to go into in detail, but it's where you would contact the credit card company directly to have them refund the money. These ODR processes aren't going to allow for double recovery. So if you go through this process and win, they're not also going to let you go through some other process and win money. So you kind of have to choose at this point. The second right you're giving up would be most lawsuits. This is also lawsuits might be a bad idea generally, is when you're online, you're dealing with people all over the country, and who kind of wants to deal with a small claims incident with people all over the place. So those are two things to think about before you enter this process. So I thought it would be easy if everybody could just see what exactly it would look like if you were going onto this site and you were filing a dispute. So you would log onto your PayPal account. I would put in all of the information that I would have as if I was buying something again. And at the top of the bullet, you can see where it says Resolution Center, and that's where I'm going to click to start all of this. It's worth noting that you have to start all of this process within 45 days after you purchase the item. So it's not after you receive it, it's after you purchase it. If you go over the 45-day point, you don't have to do anymore with them. They do recommend still filing the claim because PayPal will investigate. They'll look at the seller, they'll see if they need to be kicked off the site, and it'll eventually help other consumers at this point if you still file. So once you do this within the 45-day point, you click on this Resolution Center and you click on Dispute a Transaction. In my case, I didn't get the right item, so I would click on this. I have a problem with an item I purchased, and press continue. So this is where it becomes really important to keep all the information that you got from the transaction. You do have to put a transaction ID number in there. There are customer service reps at PayPal and eBay and Amazon that you can call and kind of get this information, but it's a lot easier if you just hold on to the email and you have it all ready for you right now. And I don't have a slide of what the next screen would look like, but once you enter the transaction ID, it'll bring you to a page where you get to talk all about what happened with the transaction, what was wrong. So on that, I would maybe even attach a picture. You know, this is what I got, and this is the picture it showed online. This is why it's different. I would attach maybe emails between me and the seller, especially if the seller was maybe rude at some point, or telling you that you were wrong and not negotiating or cooperating with you at all. This is where you would want to enter all of that information. So at that point, on that screen, you would click submit, and you submitted your dispute. And where is this going? This is going to go to PayPal, but it's also going to go to the seller. So the seller gets an opportunity to see what you're saying is wrong with it, and PayPal gets a chance to see it. So at this point, PayPal doesn't have that third person get involved. This is still just between you and the seller, and they're hoping that you can work it out. So they call it negotiating on a platform. And by platform, all it means is you see this box here where it says messages. You have to post all of your messages there so that PayPal can see the messages that you're sending back and forth between you and the seller. So when you're doing this, they're looking for you making creative solutions, you trying to work with the seller, you cooperating. They won't allow for profanity. There are actually some words that they won't even let you type in there. So just treat it like a face-to-face conversation. And really do try and come up with creative solutions about what you think is the best way to solve this problem. In the case of my dress, maybe the dress I ordered was actually more expensive, or I could offer to pay the shipping, the reshipping fee, or something along those lines. Just maybe giving a little bit if that's what the PayPal mediator is going to look for.
And this is really great. I just want to point out something on the slide provided by Colin Rule. And this is really neat. Kelly actually had the opportunity to talk to the guy who developed these different online dispute resolution systems for PayPal and these different companies. We've been talking about all the negative things and how consumers are sort of left high and dry. This is one area that's meant to be a way that you can get a resolution of a problem quickly and cheaply without having to even leave your house, and just do it online. And it is meant to be consumer friendly, and they have worked hard to develop these. And Kelly Gimbillian says great. She got it directly from him, the guy who actually developed these systems.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. This, I should have mentioned in the beginning, it is free. This is something when you buy something, you automatically become able to participate in this. It's an extra fee. This isn't something that's going to take a lot of time. You can sit down and you can do it right when you realize that something's gone wrong. Like I said, these are going to be the messages that you're sending back and forth, and they give you a 20-day time period. So after the 20-day time, if you and the seller work it out, great. If you don't, that's when you can escalate it to a claim, which I've got a little box down at the bottom of the screen where you're going to do that. You have to make sure you do it within the 20 days, though. If you wait until after the 20 days, your claim expires. You're done. They just assume that you resolved it. Do you have a question?
So is this only with PayPal? So is it more secure to do that online or pay directly to Amazon or eBay?
That is a great question. What I'm using right now is just an example from PayPal because it was one where I had screenshots of so that everybody could see it. If you hold on like 5 minutes, I'm going to talk about all the different other ones, but it's a nice way to do it because you do have this backup system, and I'll explain a little bit more in a second, but it's a really good question.
Different companies have different ones and should get to that.
So, like I said, if you decide you haven't come to a resolution with the seller, they're not budging at all, they're not going to send me a new dress, they're not going to take the old one back, that's when you're going to escalate it to a claim. So what's going to happen is when you click escalate to a claim, that's when your third-party mediator is going to become involved. Here is going to be the screen that you're looking at. You have an opportunity to submit any more documentation. So if at the beginning I didn't put in pictures of the dresses that I was looking at this point I could put more information in it. If the seller was contacting me off the platform where where PayPal could see, if they were sending me messages behind the back saying, I can't believe you're doing this, I'm definitely not giving you a refund, that's where you would put this information. That's going to be really helpful for the third-party mediator, because that's all the information they're working off of. All the information that you put on this screen, that's how they're going to make a decision in your case. You do get a time frame for when they'll make a decision. It's usually 30 days. If you have a really complex case, in the case of my dress, that's not a complex one. That's just, I want a different item. It might take a little bit longer, but they'll let you know. They'll also let you know if they need any additional information from you. This is the screen that'll look like when you finally get a decision. You'll get an email notification in the mail that your PayPal dispute has been resolved, and they'll take you to this screen. They'll give you a brief one-line description, which might be a little unsatisfying, and tell you why they're siding with you. You also have an ability to appeal the decision if say they side with the seller and you think that was wrong. But the only time you can appeal the decision is if you have more information that you didn't include in that original complaint. So this isn't a chance to just go over the same stuff and hope you get a different mediator this time. You can only do it if you have new information. So before I talk about these items that are excluded, does anybody have any questions just about the process that you would see or the screens that you would see if you were doing this? Okay, cool. So the one issue with this is there are a lot of items that are excluded from this process when you're buying on any of the sites. So I'm going outside of PayPal now. So say you're buying on Amazon or eBay. Each of these websites is going to have a different list of items that are excluded from these online dispute processes. Some of the big ones I've highlighted are digital goods, so anything you're just clicking download on, so a software. I'm not talking about CDs or DVDs or things that you're actually getting in the mail. Those are going to be covered. But if they're just clicking a download link, those aren't going to be covered. Cars aren't covered if you're buying cars on eBay. If you're buying any kind of plane tickets, any train tickets, those aren't going to be covered. The big one that I wanted to highlight was personal money transfers. So if you're using PayPal to just send money between you and a friend, that's not going to be covered. If your friend, for some reason, got too much, you give them the money and then they owed it to you back, you can't go into the online dispute resolution process with just your friend. That's going to be excluded. And where I've got the big star, you can see that's the little PayPal symbol that's going to show up on the purchase that you're making to let you know that this is an item that you can use the online dispute resolution process for. Amazon and eBay also have very similar icons that are going to let you know this is an item that's included. And when in doubt, you can always, I've actually attached links in a slide where there's links for every one of these different websites that have the excluded items. So if you don't know, go check the list. The last thing I wanted to note is that anytime you pay with cash or check, so for example, in my dress situation, if I just sent a check straight to the seller to their address, that's not going to be covered. PayPal actually freezes the funds, and eBay as well as Amazon freeze any money that you sent to the seller during this dispute process. Well, if they check, they have no control over it at that point. The money is gone, and the seller can kind of do whatever they want. So at this point, I would recommend always using one of these secure payment systems. eBay's PayPal system, eBay's system is very similar to PayPal system. Same with Amazon. Keep it within these places where you actually have this backup, as opposed to just doing cash or check directly with the seller.
One other thing too is with eBay, then you see for initial the power sellers. So you can pretty much see across the board the reputation, and the power sellers are not going to screw it.
Exactly, and I'm really glad you brought that up. Within eBay, Amazon, as well as PayPal, there's incentive for sellers to do a good job with their customer service and make their customers happy. They're going to be the first people who pop up on the search. They're going to have all of the good reviews. There's really, really big incentive for the sellers to do well with customer service. So that you're not getting some random person sitting in their basement and trying to scam people. We're going to be number one on the list.
And that's what you want to look for. You want to look for the reputation first.
Exactly.
Be careful though on relying on the stars. So I just want to add one little proviso is you have to be a little bit like on Amazon or whatever it might be and say, oh, this seller has a 99% positive rating. But it might be only one reviewer that actually reviewed that seller and it's the seller. Right? They show that it's like fake, And so you want to see, oh, okay, wait, like how many people have actually reviewed the seller? Is it one person? Or is it, you know, yeah, sure, you have 100% positive because
Yeah.
it's one.
Yeah.
So you have to
Usually
look
on
at
here,
that.
you'll see the quantity of people that have ordered. from-
And you
usually-
really want to follow up, because I know TripAdvisor got in a lot of trouble with respect to that, because there was a
They were-
lot of fake
Having their friends and just having,
reviews
posts, yeah.
posted. Absolutely.
yeah.
Exactly. And the last thing I want to say about this is this online dispute resolution process isn't a warranty on the product that you buy. So if it gets to you and it's working fine for, 2 weeks and everything, or you go over the 45-day process, it's not a warranty on what you're actually getting for, years to come. This is just a warranty on the process of actually transferring the money, and that's all it is.
And even with respect to all this, it's nice because it's bringing in from this morning, but Hunter's discussion of just complaining and the way to do it wisely. I mean, you're also taking all of that into consideration as well when you're going through these kinds of processes, and always knowing that you could still have, Better Business Bureau and these other outlets for launching your issues.
Exactly, and after speaking to Colin Rule, who Professor Schmitz mentioned, he was saying that, they were trying to get away from this buyer beware feel on the website. They're really trying to make it so that buyers feel comfortable buying on their sites. They rely on you to keep these sites going. So they are really responsive to any complaints that you might have. So we'll talk about the online dispute resolutions on other sites. Etsy was the one that I kind of went through. So Etsy's not going to have their own ODR process. They use PayPal's. So that's the one you'd be using on Etsy. Amazon, it's kind of interesting because a lot of items you can buy directly from Amazon. And at that point, you would only be dealing with customer service reps from them. So you'd be calling Amazon directly or emailing Amazon directly. If you buy on Amazon Marketplace, where they're allowing other sellers to come on, that's when this online dispute resolution process applies. And you'd be doing something very, very similar to the one that I just showed. You just have to watch out for the different times. So I think they allow for a little bit longer than 45 days to file a dispute. And I think once the time that you need to escalate that claim is a little bit shorter. So just watch for little nuances like that. But I have attached the links to all of these websites, where it gives you another really good step-by-step guide to each of these websites, as well as those excluded items. eBay, like I said, they sometimes do use PayPal system, but they also have their own system, so they're going to look very, very similar. Zappos, which we kind of talked about earlier in Michelle's presentation, that you're dealing directly with Zappos. That's their own website, and you will deal with their customer service rep like you went into a store and bought it. And I just wanted to flag these sites owned by individual retailers, and by that I mean, your Target.com, Nordstrom's, any place that has a physical store that you can go in. It's like you went into the physical store and bought it. So it's customer service. Yes.
But, especially with Target, I found out that when you buy online, they have a different, you try to return to the actual physical store, there is a difference. There's a difference in their item numbers and et cetera. You can run into an issue with being able to return to customer service.
Oh, exactly.
Physical.
No, I think that's a really good thing to point out.
And that's
is
true with Walmart if you
Yeah.
go through Wayfair
Yeah.
versus what. And again, it's looking at that particular purchase, who's it coming from, what are the terms and conditions and
Yeah.
all of that. And you have to actually be really careful on a lot of those, Target, Walmart, a lot of them, because they're selling, even though it looks like Walmart, it's actually not.
No, it's totally different.
Yeah, Wayfair is one company they do selling with.
All right. So these are the links I was talking about. So each of these websites actually has a very, very good step-by-step guide. So the PayPal one is very specific to PayPal. So before you go on to any of these websites and start this process, I would recommend looking at the excluded items, as well as the step-by-step guide for the individual websites like Amazon and eBay. And I just wanted to cover this briefly because I know that a lot of us buy online, but some of us sell online. For example, I've sold textbooks online because I don't need the $180 law book anymore. I want to get some little bit of cash back. So you as a seller are going to have the same kind of protections. The online dispute processes aren't just for sellers or buyers by themselves. You can also file disputes, and you can also escalate to claims if for some reason a buyer isn't working with you on something, or you have other issues with them. So these sellers do have the same kind of protections. The last thing, so non-online dispute resolution sites. Craigslist is going to be the big one. So this is the same kind of marketplace website where anybody can go on and put something on, but nobody's regulating it. Nobody's policing it. Like you mentioned earlier, you know, they're telling you what their top sellers are. This, it's just, okay, this day somebody posted this link. You're dealing with that person directly and you have no backup at all. So the online dispute resolution process isn't perfect, but at least it's a process and it's somewhere where you to go. Craigslist, you're kind of in trouble. You do still have some of those more criminal, I guess, routes or lawsuits, but you don't have the online dispute resolution process. The same, I don't want you guys to get confused. This is eBay Classifieds, not just eBay. So eBay created this website that's very similar to Craigslist, so they don't regulate the sellers on there. So eBay and eBay Classifieds are different, so watch out for that, because anybody can sell on eBay Classifieds. And like we mentioned, you know, eBay, Amazon, Etsy, PayPal, they monitor their sellers and they kick off the bad sellers. They don't catch everybody, but at least you've got a process in the background to help you out. That's it. Does anybody have any questions about any of the processes on any of the websites, or if any website has a process? All right, cool.
Great.